Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lindsay Henneke, your host and sober coach. I'm so glad you're here because I imagine that you're just like me and you want more for your life. I was there too. It was a painful and fulfilling experience when I quit drinking. And I want to make it less painful for you and more fulfilling. If you've ever thought, I wish I could just ask someone all of my questions about quitting drinking without judgment, without the shame, and without the sugarcoating, this episode is for you. Because today I'm answering your most asked questions, the real ones. The ones you whisper into your journal, the ones you Google at midnight when you can't sleep, the ones you've wanted to say out loud but haven't because you're worried about what someone might think. Here's what I want you to know. Nothing you're wondering is silly, shameful, or too small. If it's on your mind, it matters. Whether you're on day 1, month 6, or somewhere in the I'm not sure I'm ready to call this anything yet stage, this episode will hopefully give you a little bit of clarity, truth, and a whole lot of permission to see this journey differently. By the end, you won't just have answers. You'll have a new way at looking at yourself, your habits, and what's actually possible for you. And really, that's the most important thing. I don't want you to feel like you have to stay where you are. Anything is possible for you. So grab a coffee or take me with you on your walk and let's just dive in today. But before we dive into your questions, I want to name something out loud because if we don't, it's going to sit there like a weight in the room. So many women go through this feeling like they're the only one who can't get it together when it comes to alcohol, the only one who wakes up swearing today will be different and then finds herself pouring a glass of wine by 5 p.m. The only one who can crush a deadline at work, run a household, keep everyone else's life in order, but can't seem to break this one loop for herself. And because you've been holding it together on the outside, nobody sees the whole picture. You smile, you show up, you keep moving, but inside you're carrying this quiet exhaustion. Let me tell you something. You are not alone. I've coached hundreds of women who felt the exact same way. Women who are smart, capable, and successful, but also silently battling that one habit they can't outwork, outplan, or outdiscipline. And here's what I need you to hear. This is not a you problem. This is not a weakness. This is not proof that you're lazy or lacking willpower. What it is a pattern. A pattern your brain and nervous system have learned over the years. A pattern you absolutely can change once you have the right support and tools. And you might be thinking, but I've tried before. Yes, you've tried information. You've read the books, you've followed the sober accounts, maybe even done dry January, but you've never had this activation, the identity work, the nervous system rewiring, the step-by-step shifts that make alcohol irrelevant instead of forbidden. That's why I wanted to do this episode, because before you can take your next step, you have to know you're not the only one feeling this way. And you have to believe there's a path forward that actually works for you. So much of this work is just changing what we currently believe into beliefs that are going to help us build the life we want. So in this next section, I'm going to answer the questions that I hear most from women just like you. And my hope is that you'll listen, you'll hear your own thoughts, your own fears, and your own secret hopes reflected back at you. And you'll realize you're not just capable of changing this, you are actually closer than you think. Okay, so let's dive into the first question. Do I have to call myself an alcoholic to do this work? My God. Okay, let me be really clear. No, you do not. In my coaching, we don't lead with labels. Labels are identity, and identity is one of the most powerful forces in your life. When you call yourself something, anything, you start building your life around that word, whether you mean to or not. So for many women that I work with, the word alcoholic doesn't land as empowering. It lands as heavy, limiting, and rooted in a version of themselves that they're ready to outgrow. They're ready to say goodbye to that version. The thing is you can change without ever putting that label on yourself. One of my clients, a former client, Jenna, who avoided getting help for years because she thought she had to claim a label first. She was in that gray area, not drinking all day, not in a crisis, but knowing that alcohol had too much power in her life. She was holding down her job, taking care of her kids, like so many of the women I work with, showing up for everybody. But every single night, that glass of wine had become non-negotiable. And when we started working together, she asked me what I thought about it. And I told her, you don't have to call yourself anything that you don't want to. We're going to focus on who you're becoming, not who you've been. By the end of our work, she wasn't calling herself an alcoholic or even sober. She was saying, I'm a woman who wakes up proud and clear every single morning. That was her new identity. That was her standard. And that's the difference. When you start defining yourself by who you want to be instead of what you're leaving behind, the whole process starts to feel different. This is why I don't choose to label myself anything. And that means I don't refer to myself as an alcoholic. Who I am evolves as I move through life. And that's the same for you. I used to be a corporate woman, but I'm not anymore. I'm self-employed. I used to drink too much, but I don't drink anymore. I'm alcohol free. I'm sober. I'm just someone who doesn't drink anymore. I feel strongly that labels can keep us stuck in one place. And that isn't how I want to be living my life. Labels can create beliefs, and beliefs serve us for a time frame, but it's normal to grow out of them. We've all outgrown a lot of things. And this is no different. I like to say that in this phase of my life, I'm living in a way I'm proud of. And sometimes I make bad decisions. I mean, don't we all? I'm still proud of how I show up when I do. I take accountability. I right the ship in the best way I know how. And this wasn't the case when I was still drinking. So I hope this helps you feel like you get to decide. I feel like we put too much pressure on doing what other people tell us to do. We're smart. So listen to your intuition on this one. And I hope this gives you permission, not at all that you need it, to do so. Okay. Let's move on to question number 2. What if I don't want to quit forever? I just want to take a break. Okay, I hear this all the time. I'm not sure I want to quit forever. And you know what? That's okay. When we put forever on the table, our brains totally freak out. The moment you say never again, your subconscious wants to cling even harder to what you're trying to release. This fear of never being able to do something again was one of the reasons I tried to convince myself I could become a normal drinker. I couldn't face the idea forever, and it kept me stuck in this loop for a really long time. So instead of obsessing over forever, I want you to think about what you're building towards. One of my clients, Michelle, came in saying she wanted to just do 30 days. That was it. But we used those 30 days to focus on what she wanted her life to look like, not what she was taking away. She started painting again. She joined a Saturday morning yoga class. She planned coffee dates instead of happy hours. And by the end of the month, she didn't want to go back. Not because she made a forever vow, but because the life she'd built in that 30 days was too good to give up. It makes my heart so happy when I think about this conversation. If this is what you've been worried about, you don't need to worry about forever at this moment. Like, you don't need to worry about never drinking again. Start experimenting with small breaks from alcohol and build from there. Okay. I love this question. Question number 3. How do I handle friends who don't get it? All right, let's be honest. This is one of the hardest parts for so many women, and it's not the cravings, not even the habit itself. It's navigating relationships when you make a change that other people aren't making. Because here's the thing, your decision is going to make some people uncomfortable. And most of the time, it's not because they don't care about you. It's because your choice shines a light on their own habits. So we make it simple. Decide ahead of time what you're going to say when someone offers you a drink or asks why you're not having one. And you can keep this casual. I'm just taking a break right now. I'm feeling really great. Or you can make it direct. Alcohol just isn't working for me anymore. And you can stop there. You don't owe anybody a TED talk on your decision. One of my clients, Sarah, was terrified for her first girls' night without drinking. She thought her friends would push her, tease her, maybe even judge her. We role played exactly what she'd say, how she'd hold herself, and how to change the subject with ease. When the night came, she said it once. No one pushed, and by the end of the evening, two friends actually pulled her aside to say, "I've been thinking about taking a break too." It's easy to craft these horrible scenarios in our minds where everyone we've ever loved decides they can't be around us when we no longer drink. But I have yet to see that happen to any one of my clients. And when you do share with others, and if there's pushback, the more you practice holding your own standard without apologizing for it, the easier these moments get. And you know what? Like it was for Sarah, sometimes your courage is the quiet permission that somebody else needs. Okay, question number 4. Why do I keep slipping even though I want this so badly? My gosh, yes to this one. I want to start by saying this. You slipping does not mean that you're failing. It means you're human. It means you've been growing. Think about this. Every time you start to shift your relationship with alcohol, you're moving outside of your comfort zone. I talk about this all the time. The comfort zone will always try to pull you back. And not because it's good for you, but because it's familiar. Setbacks aren't proof that you can't do this. They're proof that you're in the process of change. And change isn't a straight line. It's messy. It's winding path with moments where the old version of you tries to reclaim the wheel. I've seen this so many times. I experienced it so many times. One of my clients, Emily, had been alcohol-free for 40 days when she went to a networking event. She'd been feeling confident. She'd been feeling strong. And in the middle of all the small talk, the champagne trays come around. Without thinking, she took a glass. In the past, that one glass would have been her proof that she couldn't do this. It would have sent her into a 2-week spiral. Well, I've already blown it. Might as well drink tonight and tomorrow. I'll start over Monday. We all know what that thought process does. But here's what we did instead. We paused. We looked at that moment like a mirror, not a verdict. We asked, what was going on that day? What was I feeling? Where did I need more support? And here's what she realized. She hadn't eaten much that day. She'd gone in feeling nervous about networking. She didn't have an exit plan for the drink offer. And the truth was, she'd been running at 110% all week without giving herself time to breathe. And once she saw that, the shame melted away. It wasn't about her being behind or, messing up, making a big mistake. It was about recognizing where the gap in her support system was and closing it. This is why I always tell my clients, you can't shame yourself into lasting change. You can only grow into it. And here's something that I want you to hear loud and clear. Slips are not the end. They are data. They are information. And if you use them as a signal instead of a sentence, they can be the very thing that propels you forward. So the next time it happens, and yes, it might, ask yourself, what was I feeling right before? What did I need in that moment? And of course, how can I set myself up differently next time? Because every time you choose to learn instead of loop, you're building the version of you who doesn't need alcohol to begin with. And that's the real win. Okay, question number 5. Will I ever be able to have fun without drinking? One of my favorites. Yes. In fact, most women tell me they have more fun once alcohol is out of the equation. And here's why. Right now, your brain has been conditioned to associate fun with alcohol. Concerts, parties, dinners, it's all been paired with drinking. But fun isn't in your glass. It's in how you feel in the moment. And when you take alcohol out, you get to experience those moments fully. You're present for the inside jokes. You remember the details. You're not spending half the night thinking about when you'll get your next drink or waking up the next morning, piecing together the night through photos or texts. I hear from women sometimes that a few drinks helps with the fun and the silly playfulness of getting together with friends. And that might be true, but for me, it never ended at a few drinks. The fun was really short-lived until I'd crossed yet another line on how much I'd said I'd drink, and then it turned to chaos and carnage. My best memories with my friends have been created in the last 5 years, alcohol-free. I'm talking about yoga retreat weekends, 6 a.m. paddleboarding on a quiet lake, clear-headed, talking about the things that are really important to us, laughing over ourselves, not at somebody else's expense, not gossiping, not funneling a beer at 40 years old. I mean, to be honest, I wish I would have left my funnel in the college dorm room almost 30 years ago. This is like my client, Kara. She swore she'd never enjoy live music without a drink in her hand, but she gave it a shot and went to her favorite band's show alcohol-free. She danced harder, she laughed more, and she didn't have that mid-show crash. And now she says, I didn't lose fun when I stopped drinking it. I found it. I started experiencing it. When you stop tying fun to alcohol, you actually start saying yes to more experiences because you're not worried about how you'll feel the next day. You're free to actually enjoy your life instead of spending time recovering from it. Question number 6, how do I deal with cravings? Oh yes, feisty cravings. This is a great question because when you're experiencing a craving, whether it be for alcohol or ice cream, they can feel all-consuming. So let's break it down a bit here. Cravings are your brain saying, I want comfort. Instead of fighting them, get curious. Ask, what do I actually need right now? One of my clients, Lisa, noticed that she always craved her drink at 4 o'clock. And we discovered it wasn't about alcohol at all. It was about the drop in her blood sugar and the transition from work mode to home mode. Once she started having a snack and taking a short walk at that time, the cravings dropped by like 80%. You just have to meet the need that they're pointing to. Also, something that really helps with a craving is set a timer for 15 minutes and go and do something completely different. Just distract your mind. Okay, question number 7. What do I do when my partner still drinks? Oh, I love this question so much because if you've been following me and you've been in my world for a while, you know that my husband still drinks. This is about living your standard, not controlling theirs. My husband still drinks, and the difference is he can have a beer and move on with his life, and that was just never me. So when I started my own journey, he had some questions, and I quickly realized I just needed to bring him along for the ride without him sharing my behavior. This was about me and my relationship with alcohol, not his. The most important thing I did was keep an open dialogue with what I needed and with what I knew. Because what I knew was that I didn't know a lot. I didn't know how long it would be until I drank or if it was the last time. I didn't know when I would be ready to go out with friends. I didn't know how our lives would change. I just knew that I already experienced life as a drinker, and now I needed to commit to trying it as a non-drinker. One of my clients, Rachel, had a husband a lot like mine who loved craft beer, and at first it really bothered her, but we worked on keeping her focus on her choices. She decided what was right for her, regardless of what was in his glass. And this is what happened. 6 months later, he started drinking less, not because she nagged, but because he saw how good she felt. Okay, before I keep going with more questions, I want to check in. How are you feeling? Are these questions you've been asking yourself too? And the reason why I'm sharing these examples of my clients is because none of these are unique to you or them. There are so many women I connect with every day that are going through these same experiences. And at one point, I was there too. I'm always happy to answer questions that you may be having about the journey to sobriety, and all that comes with it, really. You can send me your questions at the contact form on my website, or you can DM me on Instagram. I read them all myself, and I will get back to you ASAP. All right, let's keep going with the questions. Question number 8. Is it normal to feel sad or lonely when I stop drinking? Oh my God, yes. And 1,000 times yes. And It's a good sign. Alcohol has been your go to for numbing those emotions. When you remove it, those feelings finally have space to surface. One of my clients, Hannah, cried more in her first month sober than she had in years. But she also said, I finally feel like I'm kind of meeting myself, like I'm seeing myself now. And once she processed this backlog of feelings, she found a deeper peace than she'd ever known. This is the emotional sobriety work that we continue to talk about. You remove the alcohol, and that's about 10% of the work. The other 90% is learning how to live without outsourcing your emotions. It is so incredibly normal to feel sad or lonely when you stop drinking. Alcohol was that old friend. And it can feel like a little bit of grieving a version of yourself that you've outgrown and you're trying to let go of. So think about what your values are. And if sadness or loneliness in particular is one of them, who is it that you want to connect with? That means connection is probably one of your values. And we need connection. Even if we're introverts, we need connection. It really helps fuel us. Moving on. Question number 9. How long until it gets easier? I get this question daily in my DMs. There is no magic number. Some women feel a huge shift in weeks. For others, it's months. The real turning point isn't the day count. It's the moment that you stop seeing alcohol as an option. And that happens when you've built this life, an identity, and a nervous system that no longer needs it. Like one of my clients, Anna, she hit that point at around 92 days. She said, I just realized I didn't think about wine at dinner last night, like at all. It's not even part of my brain space anymore. And that's the freedom that we're after here. It's about not thinking about it. But it takes time. It takes repetition of the new behavior and the new thoughts to let go of the old ones. So our brains are just like on autopilot. Everything that we think today, we were thinking yesterday. And so we have to actively change those thoughts. And eventually, sometimes 2 months, sometimes 3 months, sometimes 9 months, the new thoughts become the default. So the more you think the new thoughts, the faster it's going to happen for you. Okay. Question number 10. What's the one thing you wish every woman knew before starting? I want you to know that this is not about being good or bad. This is about being free. You are not fixing a version of yourself. You are meeting the version of you who's been waiting for you all along, the woman who trusts herself, the woman who wakes up clear, the woman who's building a life she's proud of. When you understand that, you stop white knuckling your way through forever and you start focusing on becoming her. And when you become her, alcohol doesn't make sense anymore. If I could give you one belief to start with, it's this: you are capable of changing this. And the sooner you start acting as if that's true, the faster you'll see it's becoming your reality. Okay. Let's shift a bit from these everyday questions, and I want to take you inside the room with the women I coach. Every woman I work with has had these same questions too, because they are just like you. Just like you, they're smart, capable, high-achieving women. On paper, they're crushing it. They're managing teams. They're running households. They're hitting goals. And just like you, they've been carrying the quiet weight of wondering why they can't get this one thing with alcohol figured out. And when they first join Feel Good AF, either as a private client or part of our group program, there's usually this mix of relief and fear. Relief because finally they're somewhere they don't have to hide or pretend. Fear because change, real change, feels vulnerable. But here's what happens. Within the first week, they start breathing easier. Somebody will say, it's so nice to not have to explain myself. Another will share, I thought I was the only one who thought like this. They start seeing themselves differently, and not as women who can't handle it, but as women who are in the middle of rewriting the story of their lives. One of my clients, Laura, came in thinking she just needed to try harder to quit. Within a month, she wasn't even counting days because she was too busy starting a passion project she'd been putting off for years. I spoke with another woman who had joined during the most stressful season of her career. Instead of drinking her way through it, she learned how to sit in the discomfort, handle it, and come out the other side stronger. Learning new ways to manage stress, because that's how we balance our nervous system, not by drinking. We have to find ways to manage the difficult challenges that come into our lives, because those challenges are always going to appear. And these aren't just success stories, they're roadmaps. They're proof that you don't need to wait for the perfect time or for your life to slow down or for the stars to align. You just need to step into the room. So here's your micro commitment for today, because you know I love an assignment. Send me one sentence that answers this question. If I could take alcohol off the table, what would I want to make space for in my life? Send it to me by DM or email. That's it. No overthinking it, no pressure, just one sentence, because naming it is the first step to building it. All right. I could keep answering your questions all day. And honestly, some of you sent in questions so spicy, they might need their own episodes. So here's what I want you to take from today. No matter what question you ask, it always comes back to the same thing. You are not just trying to stop drinking. You are learning how to become the version of you who doesn't even want to. And that version of you, she's not perfect. She's not living in a fairy tale. She's just a woman who decided she was done negotiating with herself and ready to start living the way she actually wants to. So whether your question was about handling social situations, finding your fun again, or figuring out why you keep slipping, the answer is always going to be about building her. Building the version of yourself that you want to become. And if you've been listening today thinking, I want to be in the room where this work is happening in real time, where other women get it, where you can ask your questions and get more than a surface level answer, that's exactly what we do inside Feel Good AF. Inside, you're not just another name on a list. You're seen, you're supported, you're held accountable in a way that makes you feel stronger, not smaller. And you're surrounded by women who are proving every single day that this is possible. And hey, if you loved this Q&A format, make sure you let me know. Send me your favorite takeaway from today or your biggest aha moment. Who knows, your question might be the next one I answer on the show. All right, if today's episode answered even one of the questions you've been holding on to, here's what I want you to do next. Don't just think about it. Don't just nod along. Pick one thing you heard today that landed with you and act on it. And if you want more of these unfiltered, behind the scenes answers, the place to get them is inside my coaching spaces. That's where you can bring your exact questions, your exact scenarios, and leave with the clarity and confidence you need to move forward. Without rules, without restriction, and of course, without shame. If you're ready to stop circling this decision and actually start living the life you've been picturing while you've been listening today, this is your moment. The women who work with me don't just learn to quit drinking. They learn how to wake up proud, go through their day with clarity, and end the night knowing they're living in alignment with who they want to be. That's what's waiting for you inside my coaching containers. The emotional safety, the practical tools, the daily support that makes the hard days easier and the good days even better. Okay. You can find all the ways to work with me linked in the show notes, whether you choose a deep dive private coaching session or step into the Feel Good AF program. You'll have me in your corner every single step of the way. The links are in the show notes. And before you go, if you found value in this episode, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new one, and leave a rating or a review. It helps more than you know. Every single review helps another woman, maybe the exact one who needs to hear this, find the show and feel less alone. You're here, you're asking the right questions, and you're so much closer to becoming a higher version of yourself than you realize. Okay, friend, I'll see you next week, and I believe in you.